Hello everybody, welcome to Valecast, brought to you by Motive. My name is Sybil. Today I'm joined by Callum. Say hello, Callum.
Good evening, Simo. How are we doing, mate?
I'm doing very, very well. Callum, have you been enjoying the Euros?
Well, I was up until the other night, or
Very much
the
the
other
same
afternoon,
answer.
I should say. But yeah, hey, it's great to see international football back. As much as it's got its pros and cons, obviously, but it kind of keeps inching us ever closer to some form of normality, anyway. And hey, there's fans in the stadiums as well, so it's looking good. We just need maybe one or two of the results could have been a bit different, but I'm sure we'll get into that as well tonight. But no, on the whole, up for it. I've got my flags up, so we'll
Same.
see what happens over the next couple of games. Then I can maybe pick another flag to support. But we'll stay positive and we'll see how we
Yeah, very much in the same boat as you, mate. It was all going hunky-dory till a certain afternoon.
go.
Um, and I very much spat the dummy. Before we get in, we are going to talk quite a lot about the first match week of the Euros. But before we do that, we've got a wee bit of Vale news. We have two new signings to announce. We have Sean McIntosh from Dufftown Football Club at 26 years old. He's a goalkeeper. We also have Michael Watson, who's also of Dufftown, who is 21 years old and is a midfielder. We're both looking forward to seeing Sean and Michael hopefully starting soon. As we go into our pre-season, properly starting next week, all the lads are in training, working hard, essentially just doing all the fitness stuff, and then we'll get properly into match fitness stuff as we go through quite a lot of friendlies. I've read out the friendlies list a few episodes ago. I think it's up on the website or it'll be on Twitter somewhere. I don't have it off the top of my head, but yeah.
No, it's on the Twitter page. We've got Anthony, who's our kind of club graphic designer, who does a lot of great work behind the scenes and goes unnoticed sometimes. But with his help, we've been able to kind of rebrand the club over the last couple of seasons, I suppose, and working on a few new ideas for the coming season. So big thanks to him for all his help with that. But yeah, you'll find all the fixtures on Twitter, and I suppose at this stage we're still just kind of keeping an eye out for what we can and can't do in terms of fans being there. I mentioned their fans being back at the Euros, and we're still not really sure if you can come and gather around the side of the pitch at Princess Royal yet. But we'll just keep everybody updated with that as we move through. But no, yeah, really pleased to see another couple of new faces coming in the door. Sean, in particular, has got Highland League experience with Rothus, so good competition there for Gav Still. James Blanchard obviously still very much with the club and maybe focusing a little bit more on the coaching side at the moment, but I don't think he's quite hanging up the gloves just yet either. So three very, very good sitting at the Vale at the moment. So yeah, that'll be exciting. And Michael, obviously another midfield player coming in. We also had the young lads coming through last week, and Michael coming in gives an extra couple of years experience to that too. So yeah, watch this space for any maybe new signings before the start of the new season. Whether that's done before all these friendlies start or not, we'll soon see. But I know Craig and Mo are still working really, really hard on getting a few new faces in as well ahead of the season. So yeah, again, just as before, we'll break that news just as soon as we can. We'll obviously discuss it here as well, Simo, and hopefully we'll have some more positive news to keep sharing over the next few weeks.
Definitely. Yeah, big shout out Anthony. He's obviously done quite a wee bit of Valecast.
Aye, he's been a massive, just to give him a big head, I suppose. But he's really changed things up for the club when he got involved, and really appreciate all the help and support that he's giving. Firstly to myself and my kind of commercial role, I suppose, but right across the club, and that obviously touches on to Valecast and some of the ideas that you've got, Simo, from a media point of view. So yeah, couldn't do it without him. I think when you look back, just a couple of years ago, when it was me, myself, and I just putting together bits and learning on the job and stuff, it was a little bit trickier. But no, Anthony's come in, and we've seen a lot. We had it. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest game or result, but with the Scottish Cup round just at Christmas time there, put a fantastic kind of Christmas feel onto those match day adverts, and we've seen some retro kind of things as well from kits through the years. So I think Anthony really deserves to get a shout out because as I say, he's not one that's in the limelight as such. So but without him, the quality of the club kind of graphics and stuff would be nowhere near what it is now. So no, thanks again to him.
Yeah, he is the boy. Now let's go to Euros.
Yes.
should we go to the opening game, which was Turkey, Italy? Turkey having a difficult old tournament thus far.
Yeah.
Italy opened us up, and I believe that, if I'm looking back on it, the first goal of the tournament was an own goal. Very much set the tone.
Yeah. Hey, all the great tournaments start off with an own goal, though, don't they?
Exactly.
So, we saw that in Brazil. What was that? 2014. I think it was Marcelo got an own goal going against Brazil that time. So yeah, I think it was an unlucky one as well. But kind of set the tone, I suppose, for Turkey's tournament so far. Obviously at time of recording, they've completed their second game as well, and we'll do one of those. If you don't want to know the scores, and look away now, but it doesn't look like they're going to be sticking around for too long.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people saying that this Italian side was maybe getting a little bit aged. I mean, Bonucci and Cellini, I feel like have been 2 years off retirement for the last 10 years. They just don't seem to get any older. I feel like it's one of the things that proves we're in a simulation. Like Cellini's been 33 for for about 10 years. I mean, I thought Italy were good.
Sorry, Simo, totally lost you for the last 20 seconds there, mate.
Did you? Oh, never mind. Yeah. I was just talking rubbish. I'll give it another go. Do a wee sniff in the post edit. I was just saying, in terms of Italy's side, people have saying it's getting a wee bit aged. In terms of Bonucci and Cellini, but I feel like they've just been like 2 years off retirement for the last 10 years.
Absolutely. They're ageless, those two.
Both of them just did such good jobs.
I feel as though it went from Maldini and his kind of lot, and then straight into these two. Really, I know probably doing a disservice to a couple of centre halves in between there, no doubt. But yeah, I can't remember an Italian defence without them in it for the last God knows how long. Just need Buffon behind them there to really push that age age average up in the squad, I suppose. But something, before the tournament, I don't think anybody really picked them as one to watch. I'd been on a couple of shows, and there'd been discussions about the Italians, and it was, they'll, they're not the force they were. They'll, maybe sneak out of the group, but that'll probably be them kind of thing. And something they've really shown just in that first game, last week. Really shown that they're still a force to be reckoned with. The scoreline, obviously was relatively tight, I suppose. But in terms of performance, one of the best Italian performances I've seen in a long, long time. So yeah, they're one to keep an eye on. That's for sure as this tournament matures.
Definitely don't look like there'll be any sort of pushovers. With Jorginho, Barella. In that midfield are going to be difficult to play against. Obviously, the ever-present Bonucci and Cellini at the centre-back pairing in front of Donnarumma, a highly rated keeper, probably in the top 5 in the world right now. So they're definitely not going to be any sort of pushover. I think any side that's going to face Italy is going to not have a particularly easy time with it. Turkey definitely, they struggled in key areas. I mean, I think Sionchu who's a cracking defender in the Premier League, had a bit of a difficult game. Really struggled, but if you look on to where Turkey went after that, and they've just played Wales and lost 2-0. I've not actually watched the game yet because we were just getting ready for Valecast, but it was
not the greatest performance from them. No. Wales, and we'll touch on Wales obviously a bit more, but I would say, again, it was a last minute kind of goal, the second one for Wales there. So it wasn't an all round spanking that they gave them. But, Turkey had a few chances. But aside from that, there wasn't really too much to write home about from their side, apart from a bit of ill discipline on both sides, I suppose, but seemed to be kind of initiated by the Turks. So yeah, I don't think they'll look back with a lot of praise for themselves over the last couple of games, in all honesty. But you never know what might happen. They could still qualify as one of those best third place finishers, I suppose. 3 points is potentially enough to do that. So all depends what happens in the Italy game, which, as I say, time of recording is tonight. But by the time you guys will be all watching this, it'll have been last night. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that group goes.
Well, as far as I'm aware, I think because 4 of the 6 third places are going to go through, I think just a win in third place is enough to get you through. I mean, that's probably what we sort of need to be hoping for as Scotland, is that we get through as one of the better fourth place third places if we can manage it. Obviously, we've got Czech Republic to get ahead of. I mean, it's going to be extremely difficult for us to get through. Now we need to go and put in a couple of good performances. We need to win a game at the very least. But we'll come on to Scotland in a little bit. I want to go next to Wales, Switzerland, which is a really competitive fixture. I thought Wales weren't too bad, but then Jordan Shaqiri really came into his own. Jordan Shaqiri has not played a massive amount of football this season, struggled with injuries and struggled with getting in the team in general at Liverpool. Really, he was a talisman for Switzerland. You can tell how important he is to that side, and I think the commentator mentioned some stats that he was involved either assisting or scoring like 10 goals in the last 5 qualifying games or something like that. But yeah, he was super important. When he came off, it kind of allowed Wales to come on to him a wee bit, and the big man Keith Moore eventually got his head on it. He missed it earlier on in the game, one that he probably could have scored. Probably he missed the easier chance earlier on in the game and then put away the harder one. I think Switzerland did a good job of marking Gareth Bale out the game. Gareth Bale couldn't really be effective at all. It was much more Dan James that was the.
And do you think that's maybe just with the profile? And obviously Dan James, playing for Man United, he's not an unknown player by any stretch of the imagination. But when you've got a team that has Gareth Bale as the star man, kind of, I suppose Portugal with Ronaldo maybe in a similar boat, but when you've got Gareth Bale there, who is that kind of key talisman for Wales, do you think that's maybe going to their advantage almost, that these teams are doubling, tripling up on him, and then you've got maybe Dan James coming right through the back of them, so yeah, I think Wales could be on a winner with that kind of setup, and we've seen that again this evening, or last night for those watching. Again, Bale, he had a few flashes and set up the second goal tonight as well, but Dan James again was a standout performer for them, and Big Moore up front, doing the job. Danny Ward in goals, is somebody that Scottish football fans will be familiar with from his loan spell at Aberdeen a few years ago. Absolutely, top form he's been in the last couple of games, and I think they've got a lot to thank him for some crucial big saves in both games that gives them the position that they're in just now. So yeah, I think Wales could be again one of those teams that progresses. Well, I don't think there's any doubt they probably will progress now. And there'll be one to keep an eye on, because they can give any team a good match, that's for sure.
Well, they have the quality to in areas of the pitch, like Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, Dan James. These are top quality, these are top class players, that can really change games when they're on one. But I think Switzerland did a decent job. I think Switzerland are unlucky to take the win, because I did think they played well enough to get the win. But yeah, I think they did a really good job at marking Gareth Bale out of the game and not letting him be as effective as he can be as a world class player that he is. Let's go next to. We're not going to cover all the games. We'll go next to Belgium, Russia. Belgium showed just how good they can be. I mean, these are. I love the way Belgium play. I really do love the way Belgium play.
A lot of people's pick for the tournament as well. They're one of those. I think maybe still ranked number one in the world at the moment. They probably need that tournament win to back that up, I suppose. Now they've kind of been there or thereabouts for the last wee while, but I think really they'll be looking at the final as a minimum, really, in terms of having a successful tournament. So again, they're one of those squads that the core of it hasn't really changed over the last few years. When you look at their from goalkeeper up, I suppose Courtois sitting there between the sticks, and then who have they got there? Vertonghen still kicking about, I think, and Denier, Alderweireld,
between them,
all there. And so they've had that kind of stability. Kevin De Bruyne in the middle, Lukaku up front. Those kind of guys have given them a really good nucleus of a squad for the last 5-6 years plus, almost. So. And then, complemented by a few young players that have come in, maybe moved up from the under-21s over the last couple of years. And again, some of those kind of more experienced heads as well. I'm not actually sure if he's in the squad at the moment, but, Carrasco, he went out and played in China for a wee while.
Yeah.
So he is, okay, there we go. You know more than I do. So, a bit of more of an experienced head there as well. And some past players maybe that again, maybe didn't make the squad, but will be looking at maybe coming back in the future. So yeah, I think they are definitely one of those teams that they need to win something, though. You look back on, and I know we'll talk about England as well at some point, I'm sure, but you look back at that kind of golden generation that they had with your Beckhams and Lampards and Gerrards and all that, and not really anything to show for it. I think if Belgium don't win something soon, then they're in danger of maybe ending up in the same boat. And yes, they've achieved the number one in the rankings, but unless your name's getting etched onto those trophies, then it doesn't really count very much.
You don't get a trophy for that, do you? Yeah. In terms of how Belgium play, I think Russia were poor all round. Like front to back, they were poor, from the keeper to the centre backs, even right up to Golovin. They were not very impressive this game at all. But I think the way Belgium played, and Kevin De Bruyne was in this team, and it didn't look like they skipped a beat, because they've got a 2-man midfield of Tielemans and Dendoncker, two really hard running midfielders that have got a really, really good passing range, able to win the ball, able to intercept the ball, get a bit of strength and height about them as well. Yuri Tielemans in particular. And they can play in a proper 2-man midfield against essentially 3 midfielders. Yeah. And I think having Lukaku is able to drop deep and win the ball high up the pitch, and Lukaku was just so effective. He was everywhere on this pitch, and he has really developed it back into that form that everybody's seen at Everton. But even having players like Dedrick Boyat has had a really good season at Hertha Berlin. He's able to step out that free man and lead that 3-man defence of like Vertonghen and Alderweireld, who also have great passing ranges. They're able to switch the play. I think, they just front to back, they just set up so fluid.
There's a confidence there as well. They've got that kind of, nothing really seems to faze them. They'll go through and play their game. They don't seem to be adapt or changing their game, or trying to force it to play against certain opposition. So yeah, again, they're definitely a standout for potentially making it all the way through to the final. But we'll just wait and see what happens with the rest of that group. Obviously, just to maybe mention the other game in that group, obviously with Denmark and Finland. Firstly was, absolutely a horrific thing to see, on a football pitch, and watching that live, was heartbreaking to watch that. To be honest, one of the scariest things I think I've seen on a football pitch in a long time. So, great to see though that he seems to be on the mend. Ericsson, he's obviously put out a few updates and things like that. But again, the Denmark coach came out the other day, kind of criticising UEFA a little bit for kind of backing them into a corner almost and getting that game finished that night. So, I think Denmark, I don't think they can be judged on that result, or certainly the second game, if you will, the performance there, because obviously their minds would have been elsewhere. So, it'd be interesting to see just what they can do to maybe pick themselves back up again, to see if they can compete in this group. So, but yeah, as I say, it's a really scary moment, and particularly, the time of day it was on as well. There have been a lot of families sat around the TV watching that one. Obviously, his own kind of family in the stand as well. Absolutely something that you just never think you're going to see, but just shows that human nature of football as well, I suppose. So, but all the best to him in his recovery.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and he is doing well, and released a statement I think yesterday. To say that he was doing well. An absolutely horrendous experience for the Denmark team and their fans in the stadium as well, and to be watching at home. I was the same as yourself. I was absolutely shocked, mortified, that to the point I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the telly. I think Denmark coach had every right to come out and criticise about having to play. I couldn't believe that they actually played the match in the evening.
I was shocked, absolutely shocked, to be honest with you.
Really shocked. And I probably could have said that they could have cut away from Christian Eriksen and given some privacy, especially if he was in such a vulnerable state. I work in trauma medicine. That's what I do for my living. So I know what it's like to be in a situation where I've been with a patient that's in cardiac arrest. And it's a horrible experience, and I think the way the referee stopped the game immediately, and the medical team was on the scene extremely quick. I think the players.
I think the awareness has been raised on this though for the last couple of years. Obviously, we saw it, a few years ago now with Fabrice Mwamba, and I know he's come out and made comments and been referred to a lot in the media for the last couple of days. But one positive, I suppose, from what happened to Mwamba was that a lot of clubs were able to get the defib machines, and people were kind of just getting a bit more general awareness of what to do in those kind of situations. And I know we put out a graphic it's actually been shared around social media quite a lot from a few different outlets around the kind of CPR and the different methods for dealing with adults and infants and things like that. But nothing better than going and getting advice from the professionals. And we're very lucky, in particularly in our kind of northeast pocket that we have a number of organisations who are absolutely fantastic at going out and giving this training to people. We get that with the community coaches for the community club. I know there's a few guys on the board at Locos who have that kind of first aid company as well. So there's no shortage of that in the Highland League. Where maybe we don't have the same level of medical provision as you do for a major championships like that, or even a Premier League game or whatever. So it's a scary experience, but if you're able to equip yourself with the skills to know even what to do for that first minute, then that can make the difference. We saw that with the Denmark captain, Simon Kjær, who was able to check the unswallowed his tongue, put him in the recovery position, and even that 20 seconds between him going down and the medical staff getting to him could have been, well, you'll know better than me on that one, of course, Simo, but could well have been vital. And obviously he's been getting a lot of praise, Kjær, in the press for the way that he handled things, along with Kasper Schmeichel, who has seen his fair share of trauma over the last couple of years, obviously with the horrendous helicopter crash for the Leicester City chairman. So these guys have kind of really kind of helped take Denmark forward, I think, out of what could have been a potential tragedy. Hopefully they're able to refocus, regroup and come out stronger for it as well. And hopefully we can see them, get out of this group too.
I hope so. I'm hoping they go as far as they possibly can in the tournament. 100%. I mean, it's the defib that's the important part of CPR. Essentially chest compressions and that is what you do until the defib arrives. So defibs, I mean, there's been a lot of good publicity about defibs and what they actually do in the recent, since the Christian Eriksen actually, the day after they arrested, people were wondering what was the kit they were using. Defibs, and then when you notice how easy it is of a bit of equipment to use. I do a lot of BLS training, and the defibs these days, they're built to talk to you. You open it up, you start it, and it speaks to you and talks you through it. And the pads have they have essentially cut out images of where to put the pads. They're so, compared to where they were 10, 15 years ago, they are world class now.
Oh, they they'll talk you through it step by step, don't they? So anybody really can go and use them. Yeah. I must admit, I did see on Twitter, and I think this was a semi-pro or amateur club down in England had their and this was after the Eriksen incident as well.
I know exactly
vandalised,
what you're talking about.
Which is absolutely sickening to see that. I mean, just an absolute disgrace, to be honest. But we do have these facilities available to us. It's in not just in football stadiums, in public parks and places like that. There are these pieces of equipment available, and please just don't do anything that might cause those machines to not work when they need to, because you never know whose life they might save. So I just wanted to make a quick mention on that as well, obviously. So and that takes us nicely, I suppose, into Group D, really, doesn't it? So with England and Scotland's group. So England obviously got off to a good start against Croatia, a bit of revenge for their World Cup semi-final a couple of years ago. A bit of a non-event of a game, really, for me. There wasn't really too much that I was watching that was exciting me. I think my mind was maybe a bit more on thinking about Scotland. But, again, that gives England every confidence of topping that group now, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. They've done the... that is probably going to be the hardest game of the group is going to be Croatia, even though they are, again, maybe another side that's aging a wee bit. I mean, it's still a fantastic side, Croatia. I mean, their midfield, Modric, Ballon d'Or winner, Brozovic, fantastic player, Kovacic, just obviously involved in the Champions League winning squad for Chelsea. That's a good midfield to come up against, and I think, right.
It was their defence maybe that I think let them down a little bit. That seemed to be all the kind of pre-match chat was around. That kind of centre half pairing. I mean, I like is it Vida, one of their centre halves?
Vida and Kletekar, I think, is one of the defenders at Marseille, I believe. Obviously, we all know who Vida is, but so Borna Barisic as well, who's obviously plays in the SPFL, has become an important part of the Croatia side. It wasn't available for selection. It was a bit of a. It was a slow burner, this match. I mean, I think it did feel like from the first half, I think Croatia were equal to England in terms of like defensive play and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not a game that's going to throw you this 90 minutes.
No, not really.
I did think Calvin Phillips was really impressive.
I was just a way to talk about him, just a way to say this God reincarnated Calvin Phillips, and it's not like the English press to get carried away with themselves, of course. But I rate him. He's a good young player. Good pass that he made for the goal. But he's no Billy Gilmore, is he? So.
Not at his best day. No, I mean, of course. I mean, I think the entire England midfield did really, really well. Declan Rice, Mason Mount, and Phillips, they were up against a hard midfield in Croatia, and they did really well. Sterling had a particularly good game. Harry Kane wasn't really in it much for me. I think the entire England back line didn't have too much to do, but Tyrone Mings was particularly good. John Stones was particularly good.
Yeah, I think Sterling needed that game, didn't he? Sterling he seemed to be the one that, again, was a bit of a surprise inclusion, potentially even in the entire squad, but let alone in the starting 11, when you consider some of the competition for his place.
Yeah.
And he needed to put in a big performance and subsequently did. So, hats off to him. And Tyrone Mings, I think, just to maybe make mention, obviously he's been in the press again the last couple of days for, I suppose, non-football reasons around the whole taking the knee kind of stance, with some of the comments that have been coming out from people in the government and things like that. So, I think across football, everybody stands, alongside them really in terms of still wanting to put this message across. And it's not something that, even at our level, that we'll stop, promoting the fact that there has to be equality in the game. So, I do tip my hat to Tyrone Mings for coming out and staying strong on that.
An impressive young man. It was essentially looking at giving up football just as he was approaching his 20s, and now he's playing for England at a European finals, which is just insane. So well done to him. I mean, in terms of Raheem Sterling, obviously coming off a difficult win, losing the Champions League final, Manchester City, obviously he's been criticised a little bit for his performances this season. I think that's due to the ridiculous high standards he set of himself. But if you are going to play in the Man City side, you do need to perform. That is a side that expects world-class players there. When you're playing in a side that's get a £500 million backline, they expect to be winning Champions Leagues and league titles. Yeah. So I mean, he's in one of those sides where you can win the league and it's still considered a bad season. I mean, I'm sure some Man City fans would say, it's all about the league and stuff like that, but it's easy to say.
I think it was, the first title maybe was, obviously it was an important one because it'd been a hell of a long time. We're taking a bit of a history through football now, but, that first title was important just to get the monkey off the back and get them onto that kind of track. Now, I think the title is the expectation, really, isn't it? That it's a complete failure of a season if that doesn't happen. I think now for them, success is viewed as, winning a Champions League. And obviously got that opportunity to do that just a few weeks ago. But it's an impossible job almost, I think. And I'm sure if that success doesn't come soon, Guardiola is known for not hanging around too long if he doesn't feel that he's on to a winner. So, there could be change there in the next few years if they don't go on to win that Champions League. It's
a part of playing in that sort of like super demanding world class environment. You know what I mean? You could be an outstanding footballer, but if you're not like if you're not at a 10 almost every weekend, and or every there's normally 2 matches a week, sometimes 3 now with the modern game. If you're not like playing 8, 9s and 10s every time you're on the pitch, then you heavily criticise. The same with Real Madrid and Barcelona. They can have world class players that just don't make it. And I think Raheem Sterling's still in that bracket of like squad that's worth almost like £2 billion at this point. They do expect absolute elite performances at every single match. So it's not he's been out in this match. He's been the difference maker against a hard Croatia side that we're clearly there to keep the ball and make it difficult for England. But yeah, I mean he is a tremendous young player. I mean there is a reason why he is playing in that Man City side that could virtually have any player they want on the planet, minus maybe 1 or 2. Yeah, so that's enough about the noisy neighbours. I don't want to talk too much.
Let's move on. Let's move on. We've not even covered our mighty Scotland just yet. So
should we come on to our misfortune, get it out of the way?
Why not? We've got to speak about it at some point, I suppose. It was an absolute sickener, to be honest. It was all the hype and just a complete non-event, really. The second goal obviously kind of knocked the stuffing out of us, and I would, as a former kind of amateur goalie myself, and so I had a quick chat with Blanchy about this one as well. I wasn't overly happy with all the stick that's heading David Marshall's way. When you look at the position of the team and things like that in the pitch, it was the goalkeepers unions coming out. Yeah, we'll maybe get we'll get Gav and Sean and that on next week to maybe have a chat about it. But the position that the team were in. It stems
from Jack Hendry taking a shot on it. Probably
something. I praised him to the hill after the Netherlands friendly, and I don't want to see him in a Scotland shirt the rest of this tournament, to be honest with you. Not just that incident in terms of going for a worldie from however many yards out he was. I don't know exactly what he was thinking of doing.
5 yards out.
I don't know what he was thinking with that one, but I think just the entire game he struggled. I think ultimately Scott McTominay ended up back in centre half to see out the game and looked a hell of a lot more comfortable as we would expect. I think Kieran Tierney, if he's able to come back in for the England game, then he's going to take that place. I think Cooper's done enough to hold on to his spot. I think he performed quite admirably. And Grant Hanley's a solid enough option there as well. So, I think we may see a change there. Either Tierney coming in or McTominay dropping back would be an option.
So gutted Tierney missed that match.
Yeah.
I was so gutted because
it just came out of the blue as well.
Thinking, yeah, and no one was really expecting it. And I was thinking, if you're going to miss a game, Kieran, don't miss this one. This is the one we need to get the points in.
I know.
This is the one we absolutely, because if we're going to sneak in that back door, getting a third place bye, we need to beat the Czech Republic, and I think we've been a lot of our prep for this has been working Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson into this system, and they are by far our biggest threat. And by the way they play with their underlapping and overlapping runs, that was our outball. That was our talisman. Essentially, was coming from the left hand side with either Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney bomber on. They had a good thing down. They pretty much had it down to a T, just ready for coming into this tournament. And in the fact that Kieran Tierney goes missing, Liam Cooper has to come in. He's obviously, you're not going to see Liam Cooper.
It's a completely different player, different player. He's an out and out centre half, Cooper, and that's the job he's there to do, But yeah, Tierney was a big miss.
I feel like that outlet, a lot of that pressure went over to Stephen O'Donnell, and I just don't think he was equal to it. I mean, early on, he's like, gets the ball stuck under his feet, he goes out for a throw in. Early on in the match, kind of sets the tone. I think that we're in a good position there. I mean, these little mistakes, they made quite a lot of them. They add up to poor performances, and I don't think he was good enough on the day. Stephen O'Donnell needs to get out and block that cross for the first goal for me, and I think Grant Hanley needs to be rougher. It needs to be getting in Chick's face as well. And I mean, I think Stephen O'Donnell's fine to be on the pitch because we're mainly going down the left hand side with Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson. All the play is focused down the left hand side. But I think if Tierney or Robertson's going to be missing, I think we need either a Ryan Fraser or a Jamie Forrest. I'd even take a Nathan Patterson over Stephen O'Donnell, or more attacking.
I'm just going to say, do you think O'Donnell's getting some of this stick just because of the kind of clamour for Patterson to have been in that starting 11? And I was just as guilty as everybody else. I think last week on Valecast I was saying, that I would be perfectly happy to see Patterson in at right back instead of O'Donnell, or right wing back instead of O'Donnell. And obviously it was O'Donnell that got the nod. As you say, made a couple of mistakes. With the ball getting under the feet, not blocking the cross, things like that. But do you think those mistakes have just been kind of highlighted even more because of this kind of new talent that's coming through?
No, I think it would have been highlighted either way. I really do. Okay. I think if we're going to play that back five, and we're going to stretch the play, and we're going to go wide, and we're going to try and find, Lyndon Dykes or Shea Adams or Nisbet, that sort of big centre half, then they need to be. I mean, I think for me, Stephen O'Donnell showed his level. There is a reason why, a lot of these players at these tournaments, they are playing in Europa League, Champions League. They're playing in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. You know what I mean? Which we are not part of in terms of competitive leagues.
Absolutely.
And Stephen O'Donnell's never really hit that top level, and it was kind of found out that way. And I think when Jamie Forrest came on, if we stretched the play, the plan seemed to become a bit better for us. When
I thought Forrest was outstanding when he came on, absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'm surprised to see him coming on. Yeah, far too late. I mean, I was surprised to see his number go up, to be honest. But I think he starts the England game now. I don't think Clark will put Patterson into that. I then hope that he's not just putting Patterson in and likes a Gilmore as well, for a dead rubber or whatever. But I think Forrest has played himself into that position now. It's one that he's done before, and he's, in terms of bombing forward, he's no. He's not going to be any stranger to doing that, and then worked his way into a good chance. That on another day may well have gone into the top corner. So he's proven his ability for Scotland. I know he's missed pretty much the majority of the last season, and he's probably still just getting back up to kind of peak fitness now. But for me, I think Clark has got a lot to change for the England game. I think firstly, Forrest coming into that position, and secondly, Che Adams starting from the start, because I think that was a terrible decision, in all honesty, that clearly went against him.
I mean, I'm a big Lyndon Dykes fan. I think what he did for us in terms of getting us here, he played a big part on, and coming up with big moments that contributed to us getting here in the first place. Although, at a certain point, Shea Adams he's a superior striker.
There's no call for nostalgia in tournament football. That's the thing. We've seen it before.
Shea Adams plays at a higher level. He's already proven every time that he's in I think he's 3 goals in 7 appearances for Scotland.
Yeah,
some of them as a sub as well for Shea Adams, and obviously he's playing against, in his league, he's playing against, Ruben Diaz, Harry Maguire, Sionchu, Liam Cooper, Leeds he'll be playing against. He'll be playing against a lot of hard back lines, even of the lesser teams of the Premier League, you still get a Ben Mee and a Tarkovsky to play against.
Exactly.
When you're a striker, essentially, you don't really play in the Premier League unless you get a decent back line, So that's who.
I'd be happy with them both. To be honest with you, I'd take them both. I think Christie.
But that was my thing for the start. I wanted both of them on the pitch, and I think it worked well against Luxembourg. And I prefer Ryan.
I don't think Christie's played himself into it, to be honest. I think Christie's maybe going to find himself on the bench against England. I think he had a pretty poor first 45 minutes, in all honesty. Probably the poorest I've seen him play in a Scotland jersey. Just totally anonymous. So I think that'll probably be a few changes that you'll see. McTominay, I think, if Tierney's not available, McTominay drops back in place of Hendry. Forrest will come in at right wing back, hopefully. And we'll see Christie dropping out for Adams. And then it's just whether Callum McGregor gets the nod to come in at centre midfield, or if he goes with Gilmore.
Very much so. I think the reason why McTominay had to come into the midfield was just purely because of Thomas Souček, and they pretty much man-to-man the full game. Souček he's a big presence, and he's had an absolutely terrific season in the Premier League. And I do agree with Steve Clark that we probably needed McTominay for the height in midfield, and we didn't really have another player that could maybe go man for man with Thomas Souček other than Scott McTominay. But I think Stephen O'Donnell and Lyndon Dykes were or maybe I wanted Shea Adams and Lyndon. I've been that from day one. You don't have Callum when we spoke about our ideal 11s, that I wanted both the big men on the pitch at the same time. But yeah, those were the areas we got it wrong. I think I think Stephen O'Donnell is very much showed his level. Because
I think it was a bit of a, if you pardon the pun, a bit of a reality check for us as well. I think we've all been 23 years waiting, and for that, the pressure that must have been on those boys' shoulders, was tremendous. With the entire nation talking up that fixture and being the one that they had to get off to the good start in the group, and obviously it's just not happened. So they just need to dust themselves off. They can go and play England with absolutely nothing to fear. We've got a fantastic opportunity to turn around what has been an awful start. And hey, you never know. We still believe. That's the thing, Simo. We've still got to give these boys every bit of backing. The tournament's not over until that final ball's kicked for us. So, we will go into that England game with every piece of optimism and hope and confidence and maybe wishful thinking that we can find.
We're going to both those games, against Croatia and England, and we've nothing to fear. We know we need to get a win. There's no point in two draws. Two draws doesn't
absolutely.
Really do anything. We need to get a win. We need to win one of those two games, and if we don't, we ain't got really much of a chance. We need to win it fairly convincingly as well. Czech Republic, if they hold out, then against England or Croatia again, that's us.
Yeah. That's the thing. We don't want to finish bottom, 0 goals, 0 points. That's absolutely not what we want. So we'll see what we're saying on next week's Valecast and see where we finished in the group. So. We'll move on. Maybe, like I say, we're not going to cover every single game. So apologies to the Polish and Slovakian fans. I think that's apologies for not covering that. But France, Germany, couple of nights ago now. If you're watching, I think that would be quite a good game to finish on there. So obviously another own goal, just to carry on from where we started, Simo. So an own goal that separated them out with Hummels putting in his own net.
Yeah,
but
Matt Hummels.
But again, maybe not the biggest spectacle that it might have thrown up the opportunity of being. But again, you're watching those players, and it is just different level. Kylian Mbappe, arguably justifying himself as one of the finest players on the planet. Great to see Benzema back in a French shirt as well. I think Pogba had a really solid game as well. I know him and Rudiger got absolutely incredible, his range. So. And obviously Rudiger was trying to get up close and personal with him as well at one point, but we'll move on from that. So again, France showing themselves to be, that kind of tip. I'll put my hands up. That was my tip for the tournament, so I'm happy with that start for them. So that's kind of round one, I suppose. We've obviously had a couple of round two games or match day 2 games that have been played already, but it's still, in a lot of these groups, it's still all to play for. So I'm very excited to see what the next week throws up for us. And yes, we'll just keep our fingers crossed for a good result along the way for the Scots. Yeah,
absolutely. In terms of the France game, France were superb. The entire back line was superb. I thought, especially when Germany really started to put on the pressure, and there was a few, phases of the game where Germany were right up and had France pinned in, but just couldn't really get over the line.
They seem to kind of be playing in fourth gear a little bit, the Germans, I must admit. They just never, they didn't look that kind of clinical side that demolished Brazil not that long ago, So, and like, some of these kind of big name players, obviously there's a few that have come back, out of international wilderness, but, like Serge Gnabry, who was absolutely tearing it up at Bayern, was looking more and more like the player that was on loan at West Brom, So it's, it's a difficult one for old Yogi Löw, but I'm sure he'll want to finish his German career on a high as well. So again, I imagine that there'll be a couple of really cracking games in that group to come. So obviously, I've mentioned Portugal as well. Scoreline maybe flattered them a wee bit with all those late goals, but I'm very much looking forward to France-Portugal. I must admit, I think that's going to be one of the games of the entire tournament.
I'm very much looking forward to it too. I want to mention about the Germans. It looked as if the entire German team was a pass behind Toni Kroos. Just felt as if Toni Kroos was just like absolutely superb, and it just like I get a pass and a yard ahead of the entire German squad. But obviously they weren't balanced particularly well. Joshua Kimmich was out on the right hand side at right wing back, and obviously as a midfield, and he can play out there. He can play out there for Bayern. But obviously leaving just Kroos and Godin in the midfield, maybe you could do that when you've got a Goretzka on the pitch or something, that big unit. But against N'Golo Kante, they've not got a chance. I often find myself missing large portions of the game when N'Golo Kante's playing, because I end up just watching his movement. I'm not really watching where the ball is. I'm just watching him move around the park.
Well, I think it was Mr. Ali McCoist that came out with a cracker last night on the commentary on that one. Was I don't remember which French player it was he referenced, but he said the Earth 70% is covered by water, the remaining 30% is covered by N'Golo Kante, and pretty bang on with that one, really. I think he's such well, I mean, he's had his plaudits obviously, and was one of the standouts for Chelsea again this season. So I think he's just a wonderful, wonderful player, and goes about things in the right way as well. He's a great role model for kids looking to come into the game as well. So he's the kind of player that a lot of teams would want to have. So yeah, again, it'll be a big tournament for him. And Pogba seem to work quite well together. I wasn't sure how that would go, but they seem pretty balanced. So yeah, looking good for the French. And we'll see how their next couple of matches go and see where they end up in this group. But no danger that they'll be won't be progressing from this group, I would say. So they'll be again one of those star names that you'll see at the latter end of the tournament.
Most definitely. Right, Cal, we need to finish up with our giveaway.
Yes.
We were giving away a football stadium print from the site Stadium Prints Twitter handle at Stadium Print. They were kind enough to join with us and partners. Unfortunately, we didn't have that many entries. If you do want to enter in these giveaways, we're always looking out for them for stuff to give back to you guys. Make sure you follow us on all the socials.
Well, maybe next time, Simo, we'll try it. I know this time around was just kind of exclusively for a Twitter competition.
Yeah,
we will put it across maybe the rest of the socials, because we appreciate that not everybody's on every single social media channel. And we want everybody to have an opportunity to take part in these great competitions that we're going to have, and all these giveaways that will be coming up over the next couple of months. So yeah, as I say, this one was exclusive to Twitter, but we'll mix it up as we go forward. And yeah, just get yourself involved. Some fantastic opportunities. This is quite a unique opportunity, I suppose, really, to have a fantastic bit of artwork up on your wall of Princess Royal Park. So if that's the kind of thing you're in for, then better luck next time round, I suppose. So, but yeah, Simo, do we have a winner, or am I going to pick a winner?
Yeah, you're going to pick a winner. So I've assigned all the entries a number. Okay, and I want you to pick a number between 1 and 7.
1 and 7, right? Okay. We've got a drum roll. We'll go number 5.
Number 5 is all things football. My co-host on the Total Steelers podcast, Jed Clark.
There we go.
And he's he's absolutely mad for this sort of stuff. So it's going to be somebody that will actually really appreciate it.
Good.
So well done.
Good. Glad it's going to a good home, Jed. Anyway. So no, brilliant. And I'm sure we'll get Jed on the show at some point in the future as well.
I think he might come on next week. Well,
we've got just to touch on next week. So, but firstly, thank you very much to Football Stadium Prints for partnering with us for this competition, first of many, we hope, and we'll be doing a lot more with them going forward. So, no, big thanks there. So, next week, though, just before we finish, I know we've kind of touched on Wales a wee bit tonight, but next week we're getting a bit of a Wales takeover Euro special. As we've got Sam and Alex from the Send 'Em Off podcast. I was a guest on their show as we did a kind of build up to the Euros not that long ago. So Sam and Alex from Send 'Em Off are going to be coming onto the show next week to talk all things Wales. These guys are a great bunch of guys. And also, I'll be interested to see, I don't know if anybody did watch that podcast, but one of the guys there, Alex, he did promise to run around the street, or his street, in his pants if North Macedonia managed to score a goal. So to the big powerhouse of North Macedonia and Mr. Pandev, I'm hoping that will have happened by the time that the guys come on next week. So yeah, next week will be an absolute cracker of a show. We'll have a right good laugh with them as we talk everything Wales, which will be something a bit different for us, I suppose. But I might need to practice my Welsh before that.
Lovely stuff. Rightio, that is going to do us for this week. If you have enjoyed the show, make sure you like and subscribe. We are here for you every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. We will go live at 150 subscribers. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. It really helps us out a lot. We will see you in the next one. Cheery bye.